Just into CNN here, Jill Stein, as in the Green Party's candidate for president, she is expected to face charges now for alleged vandalism and or trespassing at a North Dakota construction site. Officers are working on a warrant right now. We have some video that shows her allegedly spray painting the words, and I quote, "I approve this message on construction equipment." Jill Stein attended a protest yesterday with about 200 people at the pipeline work site. The Morton County Sheriff's Department couldn't confirm the exact charges or whether they will be felonies or misdemeanors. Officials say this is an open investigation.
Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein joined protesters who are attempting to stop construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline. She used spray paint to write, "I approve this message," on the blade of a bulldozer. A spokeswoman for Stein says the activists had invited her to leave a message at the protest site. The Morton County Sheriff's Department now says it intends to press charges against Stein, including trespassing. Meanwhile, the construction company has agreed to stop work on the pipeline until at least Friday. This comes after several protests by Native Americans who say the area is sacred and culturally significant. The four-state Dakota Access Pipeline is scheduled to be complete by the end of the year and would carry as much as 470,000 barrels of crude oil every day.
For months, the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and their supporters have been peacefully protesting the multi-billion-dollar four-state oil pipeline that would put the only source of clean drinking water for their entire reservation at risk. And this weekend, as lawsuits are playing out in court, it was reported that the companies behind the pipeline instructed their bulldozers in North Dakota to clear a number of prayer and burial sites, permanently destroying culturally significant artifacts of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. Interestingly, the locations of those sacred areas were only made known to the company the day before the destruction in court papers filed by the tribe to halt construction of the pipeline. So, despite the fact that neither the Dakota Access Pipeline nor Energy Transfer Partners has one specific necessary easement needed from the Army Corps of Engineers to begin digging the tunnels that are at the center of the controversy, and despite the fact that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers doesn't oppose temporarily halting the construction of the pipeline, and despite the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues calling on the U.S. government to provide the Sioux with a, quote, fair, independent, impartial, open, and transparent process to resolve this serious issue and to avoid escalation into violence and further human rights abuses. Despite all of this, when 500 people, mostly Native American, marched to the construction site to mourn the loss of the sacred sites that had just been bulldozed, they were treated, quite frankly, like vermin. Energy Transfer spokesperson Vicki Granato claims the protest is at fault and is being misrepresented in the press, saying unwarranted violence occurred on private property under easement to Dakota Access Pipeline, resulting in injury to multiple members of our security personnel and several dogs. Donald Presky, spokeswoman for Morton County Sheriff's Office, reported that 4 private security guards and 2 guard dogs were injured during the confrontation. And he claims that there were no reports of protesters being injured, which contradicts tribe spokesman Steve Sittingbear, who told The Guardian 6 people had been bitten by security dogs, including a young child. At least 30 people were pepper sprayed. See, it contradicts photos and video evidence from protesters that show violent, untrained dog handlers telling their animals to bite protesters. The reports of children and even a pregnant woman being injured by the private security teams. The reason that the protest site at the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation is the largest gathering of Native Americans in 100 years is because of its importance. We, as citizens of this United States, have a duty to the land we stole from the indigenous people who were here before any of our ancestors. We have a duty to stand with the Sioux, to protect every inch of this nation from harm. Sadly, that harm often comes from within, and from those who only care about profit, not people, and who don't seem to realize that we didn't inherit this land from our ancestors or even the Sioux ancestors. We're borrowing it from our children and the children of the future. Recently, Sean Stein sat down with Phyllis Young, former council member of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and co-founder of Women of All Red Nations, to discuss this protest. Sean started by asking her what outcome she ultimately hoped for in the battle between Big Oil and the Sioux.
No pipeline. No pipeline is our key objective in defense, is that we do not want a pipeline. We do have alternative energy that we are looking at and we are developing, and we are going to ensure that it's safer to develop that new technology, and to it's a cleaner fight.
So speaking of the fight, describe to me a little bit what's going on as far as the protests are concerned. We've heard reports that water has been taken away from the protesters' camp, that there's been arrests and a certain level of harassment going on. But describe more more to us what the situation actually looks like on the ground.
Well, the governor of North Dakota initially offered assistance, and he gave us medical mobiles. He helped us with guarantees that he wanted to work with us. But we ourselves did not anticipate the response from Indian country. So 120 Indian nations have come here, and they have supported us. So we are asking the United Nations Human Rights Commission for observers to come here to see the police brutality that was used by the Martin County Police and the State Highway Patrol from North Dakota, and the security from Dakota Access. So there have been crimes, human rights violations against our women particularly, and seeking injunctions and restraining orders against us, entire groups by Jane Doe and John Doe. And we have a human right to our own identification, and so they can use our names. They don't have to refer to us as Jane Doe or John Doe. So we have asked the UN Commission to eliminate racial discrimination. We have filed an action with them, and that is the court action is the racist action that the original route was in Bismarck, North Dakota, but it would contaminate their water. So they moved it 40 miles downstream and to Standing Rock and said, this is where it's going to be. So I don't get their notion that it's going to be safer for us at that juncture. So, but the governor, his announcement that he was removing the water and barricading our roads just gave us greater response from Indian country. Tribes have brought in generators. They have offered mobiles of any sort for medical, for whatever we need. The tribal response has been tremendous. And so we will continue without the governor's help. And he can take his mobiles, but tribal response has been incredible.
Now you were saying that under the suits being brought against you, that you're being listed as Jane Doe and John Doe. Now, why is that? Why does it not list your proper names?
Because they don't know our names. They when they started arresting people, they know our chairman and they know the tribal council members, the officials, but they don't know the people. And so it's like et al. In the legal system in America, the rest of you. So it's like we're Jane Does and John Does, but it's a whole new sophisticated form of oppression, and so we have to call upon the world, the UN Commission on Human Rights, the UN Commission to eliminate racial discrimination. We have the formal charge has been received by that commission, and the hearing will be in November.
On account of the protests, have you been able to actually stop construction at this point? Is it halted for the moment?
There was a petition to the federal district court in Washington, D.C. by the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, and then 2 other tribes have joined the Yankton Reservation and Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. So we assume that under federal law that's pending, and you are given that time to wait until the court decision. The pipeline company did not wait. They just moved aggressively. So the access roads were barricaded, but in the night they went through and made an access road. So the protests were basically wait until the hearing, but they would not wait. So the people came and people responded to the continued action of the company to move aggressively. And we wanted our day in court, and this country doesn't operate on that kind of logic.